And I know this is where Violet's not popular and Violet's being a not nice person, and right. But the truth is, I want every one of you to think about this. The reason that you're watching these videos is because you're trying to improve your health, I hope. The reason you're watching these videos is because you're trying to lose weight, I believe. And so if you're trying to do those two things, how is alcohol helping you? What are we supposed to eat on a ketogenic lifestyle? Are there things that we actually are not allowed to eat? So many questions. Today we're going to talk about food. Hello, Wellness Warriors. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet. Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet.
And I'm Pat. So we have a lot of questions from you guys about, can I eat this on keto? Can I eat this? Most of them are turning around fruits. Can I drink alcohol? Can we have a cookie? Can I have a cheat day?
One of the things that I'm going to say right off the bat is, why are you asking me? I want everyone who's ever asked, Violet, can I eat this, to stop and ask, why are you really asking me? Because my guess is you're looking for me to give you permission to eat something. And, well, first of all, I can't stop you from eating anything, right? There's a world full of people out there eating chocolate bars right now. If I could stop them, I would just send the vibe out there and they'd drop them. I'm not able to do that. So I want you to really ask yourself, are you truly asking me if it's okay to eat it? Or are you looking for someone to tell you that it's okay, which will then contradict the knowledge you already have? So that's the first thing I'm putting out for everyone to think about.
Having a cookie, whether you're keto or not, is it the best thing to have on any diet?
If you want to take a piece of cookie that's about the size of this SD card and eat it, it's probably not going to be, it's probably not going to knock you out. But probably is it going to satisfy you is the question.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
I feel like the questions that I get asked is more around this idea of, give me permission, Violet, to do this, or explain to me how I can do this. But what I want everyone to think about is that you don't actually need me to know that information. You get a carb calculator, you put the food in, it's going to tell you how many carbs are in it. You look at how many carbs you've already eaten today, and you're going to know if I have space to eat this food. I know myself. And back when I was first starting this journey, if I would eat one cookie, which would have probably taken all of my carbohydrates for the day, I would not have been satisfied with whatever meals I would have been making after that, because they would have been just meat. Today, I have no problem with that. I still wouldn't eat the cookie. You can ask me why.
I was about to.
Processed foods.
Yeah.
Right? So there's multiple different reasons why we're going to say no to some of the things. Say no. I say no to me about some of the things on this list. Whatever you choose to do is going to be what you choose to do. But let's go through the list, Pat.
But just before you mentioned processed food, the other reason, the other good reason not to eat that cookie, is that it's going to trigger your addiction. We talked in past videos about addiction like a ton. If you eat something that's gonna wake up your sweet senses, you're gonna go for, you might go for more. Like, I don't know anybody who's, like you said, is satisfied with just a tiny a little bite of cookie like that.
Nuts. Like,
yeah.
Okay, so I figured out, and why did I figure this out is just because sometimes these things are in front of me. I cannot eat cashews. If I have cashews, that container is going to be done in a time frame that doesn't make sense for Violet. So I've stopped buying cashews, and when I go to his place, he hides them, because if I see them, I'm going to eat them. And because I still have that little thing that says I like them, right? And I haven't figured out how to not like them yet. That's probably going to come.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, wait, yeah.
But interestingly, pecans, I can eat them and they don't taste sweet to me, and I don't want to eat the whole house down.
Okay.
Walnuts, again, don't taste sweet to me, so I don't end up chasing. So this idea of triggering your addiction is really important. Cashews actually in my mouth taste sweet, and then I end up.
On top of that, they are higher in carbs. Like a single serving, they're 8 or 9 grams of net carbs, so you need to be careful with the cashews.
And I fully taste them.
Yeah,
I taste that.
But I have the same problem with nuts too. I really slowed down lately on the nuts, because they're not as high in carb, you tend to eat more, but they're like still energy and calorie dense. Like I know we often talk about calorie are not important, but if you stuff yourself with
Well, they're energy dense.
50,
At the end of the
yeah,
day, that's what
so
matters.
so yeah, you're
They're
gonna
high
you're
in, well, they're not high in carb.
no,
They
but
have carbs,
mm,
but they're high in fat. Can I point something else out too,
mhm,
by the way, just for clarity? Because I've been thinking about me and how I was out of control with nuts at one point. And I really looked at like when, because I would eat, so I would get through my entire day and go home and eat a meal and be fine. And when would I eat the stupid nuts? When I got bored later in the evening. Or if I had nuts at the office, when would I eat them? Not when I'm busy and doing, I'd forget they were even there. But when I had 3 hours between clients and I had nothing
mm,
to do, all of a sudden, oh, there's nuts, yay. Right? So that emotional eating, so eating to solve boredom is emotional eating. That emotional eating thing for me is still something that I'm struggling with, still something that I'm trying
oh,
to, but when there's nothing fun in the house to eat, I find things to do,
yeah,
right?
okay,
And if I'm lonely, I find my daughter, I find this guy, I go see
mm,
my parents. Like if I'm lonely, I actually
mm-hmm,
engage with people, right? If there's no fun food for
mm-hmm.
me to tackle, right? So these are things I want
Yeah,
everybody thinking about,
yeah, that's a good question actually. Like if there's no okay, uh, um,
because I have no choice. I'm giving myself no choice. I actually
mm,
have to solve the real problem because I don't have the emotional.
yeah. My question was more like if you don't have any good food, like to do some emotional eating. What would you say to somebody that's gonna turn over to the carbs, like
I
to the
would,
chips,
but
to
that, okay, so
the
that's the difference is that I would never
yeah,
do that,
okay, yeah.
right?
So you need to be really strict with yourself, I
Like
guess.
the problem here is this, and this is where, like, again, me knowing me, I can do this. So since I don't
Mm,
buy any, so snacks that I would eat, so now you're talking about nuts,
mm,
that's pretty much the only snack. Oh, maybe cheese. Although funny enough, I won't go and get cheese just like
uh,
that, because for me, I see cheese as part of a meal.
mm,
So I wouldn't just go get cheese, but I would go get nuts because I never put nuts in a meal.
mm,
I never put seeds in a meal. Like for me, those are
okay,
snacking things.
okay,
So again, the way that you talk to yourself will
mm,
matter. The way that Violet talks to herself, those are snacking things. When I think about snacking, that's what I think of. I don't think, oh, I'm going to go get a chicken leg. It never occurs to me to get a chicken leg as a snack,
yeah,
right? Now, here's the interesting thing, though, is that if I'm bored and I was going to eat something and that's not available, I'm that lazy. I'm not going to start cooking something.
mm,
I'm not going to pull out the baking pan and start making cookies that I'm going to eat. That's never going to, I'm
yeah,
too lazy for that. Thank goodness, right? Because I probably do have enough ingredients to make something in my house, but I wouldn't do it.
mm,
So I feel like this is the other piece of the puzzle. You need to understand who you are. You need to pay attention to how you talk to you. Because I figured out that this is how I talk to me, the simple answer, don't buy the nuts.
mm,
Or buy nuts I won't eat. Like I don't eat peanuts.
mm,
So if my daughter wants nuts, I buy peanuts. So this is the other part of the story. Like I make sure that I'm not leaving temptation scattered all
oh,
around
okay,
me,
that's a
because
good point.
I still feel like I'm at the beginning of my story. I'm only 3 years into my
Mm,
7-year remake, right? I'm too early in the story to be that solid to say that I'm never
mm,
gonna touch nuts if they're sitting on the table looking
okay.
cute to me.
Calling you.
Violet.
Okay. Okay. So, can I eat fruits? That's one of the recurrent question we have from our viewers. Can I have fruits? Can we eat fruit?
Of
Fruits
course.
are healthy.
And
Of course you can. Of
Okay,
course you
of
can.
course you can. So
But,
why
but
do you and I no longer eat fruit? Right? We used to.
yeah,
I
I
shouldn't say we
used to
don't
be.
eat. We don't eat fruit. I shouldn't say we don't eat fruit because we eat avocado
Yeah.
and we eat
I
olives.
I do have tomatoes once in a
And you
while.
have tomatoes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. But like we've really put down like apples, pears, bananas. Like we've put down the
Oranges,
even
bananas.
berries. I think I
Yeah.
haven't seen
Uh,
you with berries in a long
very, very
time.
long time. Yeah.
Although I don't know what would happen if one was in front of you. Maybe you might eat it, but like I know I
I will
wouldn't
buy
eat
it.
it. So like, but like we've really put down a lot of the fruit that we used to buy. We're no longer, at least in my house, I know I'm no longer buying them for my daughter. She doesn't have them in the house. I don't know if you're still buying
Same for
any.
me. I do buy when I have my boys. I do buy 2 bananas, one for each morning, like at school for his
For a snack. Okay.
for his snack. Yeah.
So like for my daughter, that's gone. She's
Mm-hmm.
been, for her school, she's been taking cheese,
Mm,
and that's working out great for her. She loves cheese. So, and the reason that we don't eat fruit, and it's a very basic reason, is the fructose in fruit
Mm-hmm.
is only metabolized by your liver. So by eating avocado and olives, we're keeping the amount of fructose our body has to manage extremely low. Obviously, anyone who's ever had an avocado or some olives realizes that they're not sweet tasting,
Mm-hmm.
although clearly there probably is some fructose. I never actually checked to see how much fructose is in it.
Fructose is-
I've never actually checked to see how much fructose. Maybe I'm going to do that while we're talking. I'm going to double check how much fructose is in avocado and olives, and we're going to put it on the screen.
Yeah.
Because again, like for me, if I can't taste the sweet in it, then I know that it's really low. Because trust me, with everything that's happening now, I taste.
Yeah. It's the fructose, but it's also like just basic stuff. If you want to do your 20 grams of carbs or less, like in an apple, I think we checked, it's
26.
like 26. In a banana, it's 35.
Yeah.
Like
And we're
just
talking
one,
average size
Yeah.
banana, average size apple.
one fruit
It's-
would be enough, like to kick you out of ketosis, basically.
And
So-
it's your whole day, basically. You're like,
Yeah,
that's
true.
the one. And this what goes back to that thing I said at the very beginning, right? Like, I'm not that person. I can't just have one cookie and say, oh, that's all the carbs I'm having today. Like, that's part of the reason that for me it just made sense to just eliminate these things.
Yeah.
It was a choice. So here's the other thing is that I chose to eat foods that I could eat more of at the beginning because I knew in my head that would help me to do it, right? If I'm walking around feeling like the meal wasn't complete, which is how I would feel if I only had meat at the beginning. Today, I'm happy to have just chicken, just pork, just like I'm happy. Like that's an ideal meal to me. Today, it wasn't back then.
Yeah. But Violet, what about the saying, one apple a day keeps the doctor away?
I don't even know what to say about that, honestly.
It just like popped in my
I think
my
an
head.
apple a day keeps a doctor away if you're eating standard American diet because it's one less cookie you ate that moment.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not if you're doing any kind of healthier diet than standard American. It's not helping you.
Best fruits you might want to consider are the berries. Like you said, I used to buy them like a while back. I was putting them in my salad, a couple blackberries because I did like the taste. They were fun, but they were fun. So like I just like honestly I don't remember last time I bought some blackberries.
And honestly, the only reason that I don't even suggest the berries, I know they're the lowest. Like they're the lowest sweet tasting fruit you can have and still be. And the only reason I still don't encourage them is I just want everyone to think about like if in general you eat some berries and maybe not half of it is fructose because they're berries. So maybe even if and I don't know what the numbers are, but let's pretend it's a quarter of the sweetness from the berries is coming from fructose. So if I allow myself to eat 4 grams of sugar from those berries, and that means 1 gram was fructose. That's still 1 gram that is only being metabolized by my liver. That's still a lot of damage happening there.
Okay.
That's the reason that I don't encourage fruit. That's the reason that we really need to put down high fructose corn syrup. It's only metabolized by your liver, and it's damaging your liver.
What about alcohol? Can I drink alcohol on the keto diet without having a gout attack and a gout?
I was waiting for you.
I know you were thinking about that. I know I can't now.
There's so
but-
many things though. It's like, so it's not that you can't. Of course, like I said, you do whatever we want. But it's like understanding, like as you and I have moved forward in our healthiness, we've begun to see how these things that we thought were innocuous, nothings that we were doing, were actually hurting us. And both of us we used to drink on the standard American diet, like at least once a weekend, we would have had some kind of drink.
Yeah.
Right, like, and not even just like just because like we go to a party, we go see people, like we, or go out to dinner, we would have a drink. Not a big deal. Never thought twice about it. And I mean, I so never thought twice about it that it was like as my mood. If I went to the bar with my friends, I would just as easily have a soda as I would have a drink. Like
a diet soda.
at the beginning, it was
At
a
the
regular
beginning-
soda.
Oh yeah.
When I was going to the bar with my friends, like
Okay.
I would either order a soda or I would order a drink, and then eventually I was ordering a diet soda or a drink. But like it never even clicked in my head that this was a thing that was not good to do. Like today, Like I look back at what I was doing and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like do I understand the danger that I was putting my body in? I did not understand it.
Yeah.
So the reason that like alcohol, again, your liver, it's the number one reason to think about it. But I think the thing I want people to think about is, what value am I getting out of this alcoholic beverage?
Yeah.
What value, like, when people ask me like, can I have a drink? Can I have a drink? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely you can. I'm not going to tell you can't. But what I'm going to ask you to think about is, what value is the drink bringing to your body? Because this is the thing that we're not allowing ourselves to do. If I need to replace a plank in my ceiling, in my attic, I can go and take something out the trash bin from the next door neighbor and put it there. It's going to do the job for a few months. Or I can go to the hardware store and buy a brand new plank and put a brand new plank and know it's going to last for years. And that's what I want you to think about. Am I creating a small little hole in my 7-year repair for the fun of having a drink right now?
I think for sure people, like assume that you don't drink alcohol as a nutritional, like it has no nutritional value. So you don't drink to feed your body. So it's purely for pleasure. I think that's a given, like even in keto people or standard American people, diet people. Like,
and if I have metabolic issues I'm trying to solve, what I'm asking you to do is think about, is this a good thing for you to do?
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like it really, and I know this is where Violet's not popular and Violet's being a not nice person, and right. But the truth is, I want every one of you to think about this. The reason that you're watching these videos is because you're trying to improve your health, I hope. The reason you're watching these videos is because you're trying to lose weight, I believe. And so if you're trying to do those two things, how is alcohol helping you? It's not helping you to lose weight. It's actually helping you to gain. It's not helping you to improve your health. It's helping you to destroy it. So at that point, when you ask me, but can I drink alcohol? My answer is always, yeah, sure you can. Is it going to take you towards your goal? It's a whole other question. And I want you to think about that. Am I going to sit here and say that I'm never going to drink alcohol in the future? Of course not. I'm not going to say that, because I don't know what scenario is going to present itself in front of me that I might say, today I'm going to drink. But I'll tell you one thing I do know. The day I drink is the day I'm putting a hole in my foundation. And I know that. 7 years. Whatever you intake is affecting you for the coming 7 years. Right? And we need to be conscious of that piece of information.
But we are much smarter than we were before about what the size of the hole we put in our body. I mean, like we're more selective about the alcohol we drink. Like I haven't had a beer in how many years now. We prefer like the low sugar wine. So for sure, like for the time you drink, your body is putting itself on a break, like of repairing.
It's more than putting itself on a break.
So
if I ingest negatives, they are with me for 7 years.
7 years,
honestly, like again, I'm not gonna lie and say I never do it, right? I'm not gonna lie and say I'm never gonna touch a nut again, or I'm pointing it out to you. I want you to be honest with yourself, right? If I eat a cookie, the protein and all the stuff in that cookie that's processed, that's not healthy, is part of what's building me. And until my body gets around to repairing that piece, it's there. If I drink alcohol, the damage it does to my liver, until my body gets around to repairing that liver piece, that it's there. So like, let's not play games with ourselves, right? And by the way, talk to any insurance adjuster. A pinhole size hole in your window, how much electricity are you losing per year? It's not small. It adds up. It's every day until that gets fixed. Until somebody notices, hey, there's wind coming in here, and put some caulking on it, right? That's every day through the winter, that your energy bill is going up, through the summer, that your cooling bill is going up. So I just wanted us to think about it. And I'm not, again, you're going to do what you're going to do.
What about dairy products? Like, can I have dairy? And it ranges from like people say, oh, I'm doing carnivore, I have steak, but I have a glass of milk before I go to bed. And some like let's go from the range of like let's go even like non-fat milk to yogurt to cheese, for example.
So what I'm going to say is that it depends on what kind of dairy, because not every dairy is created equal. And if I'm drinking non-fat milk, so non-fat milk means you take the fat out, which means the only energy source left in there is sugar. Well, now I'm just drinking sugar, and at that point, why am I doing that.
And we can talk. I think I'm gonna put it here, but it's a good 10, 12 grams per cup of milk.
The interesting thing about
So, of
milk,
carbs.
the interesting thing about milk is that it's always about 10, 12. Like the
Oh,
number
the
range,
higher, yeah.
the number is always about the same because all you're doing is taking the fat out. But
Okay.
my problem isn't that. My problem is, so why I wouldn't drink milk at all is that, well, if you're drinking skim milk, then you're just drinking sugar, not healthy. But if I'm drinking whole milk, I'm drinking sugar with the
And fat.
fat. So now I'm doing 50-50.
Yeah.
Meh. It's like,
Yeah.
standard American diet. So
So milk, like
milk is, I wouldn't drink milk. And so I'm saying, typical adult trying to live a ketogenic lifestyle, if you're drinking milk, be cautious of that.
Yeah.
Now, if you're putting a tablespoon of milk in your
coffee.
coffee or something, is it great to do? You're still having more carb in there than if you were to use heavy cream, for example,
Yeah.
which is 35%, and it's like 0.5 grams of carb per tablespoon, right? So, like, like if I'm making a choice, like, I mean, like
Yeah.
1 tablespoon is giving you 0.5 grams versus 1 tablespoon is giving you 1. I would go with the, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that big of a deal if all you're doing is putting it in a coffee. This is why, like, I'm so, like, not, like, dairy to me doesn't bother me unless you're telling me you're drinking it by the glass. But if you're just putting a dash, and I mean, like, no, but then we have
A
to actually
dash,
measure.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you
That's
actually
what
need
I
to
was
measure.
about to say.
And this is the other thing I'm going to point out. When I put cream in our coffees, I actually weigh
Weigh
it.
it.
And I know people are like, you still weigh yourself? Yes, I actually weigh it. Why? Because it's easier to do this, and I put 4 tablespoons instead of 1, right? So I do weigh it, and I encourage you to do the same. If you're going to put milk and you're trying to put a tablespoon, then take a measuring teaspoon and pour out that tablespoon and put it in. And you're probably not going to like the way that coffee looks, but that's what you now need to drink if you're talking about.
That's gonna be dark.
Right? But this is the
But
thing.
yeah.
So this is why
Yeah.
we don't use milk to lighten our
Yeah,
coffee.
because we probably would need
Yeah,
like
you
a
need too
quarter
much.
cup or something like that.
You need to, and all of a
I
sudden
just-
now you're into the 5 grams of carbs instead of 1.
So cream is like in regard to keto is a much better choice for your coffee than milk. I know you're not a big fan of yogurt, but there's some like full fat yogurt out there that for I think a serving 175 grams, like that's a good serving. It's 5 or 6 grams of carbs. So again, like. But I'm talking about like a plain yogurt, like avoid the vanilla and the fruit in the bottom. I'm really like either a Greek yogurt or like full fat yogurt. I did actually find one Greek yogurt that was like maybe 3% fat or 5% fat, but it was still 5 grams of carb.
So the thing for me why I don't go for yogurt is just that, again, that whole thing of like, well, first of all, plain yogurt doesn't taste, or at least it didn't taste. I haven't had yogurt in long enough that maybe I would taste it and I would like it. But I won't taste it because I don't want to like it, because it's just one more carby thing that I would put in my life that I don't need to eat. So right now, I haven't had yogurt in years, and I don't miss it because I haven't had yogurt in years. Now, but what I would say about yogurt is, so if you're going for like a Greek yogurt where we know that it's like really low in carb, and right, if you're going like a really high fat yogurt that's really low in carb, weigh it.
Yeah, sure.
Because again, what 175 grams sounds like so much, but then when you're actually doing it, it's not that much. Second thing, like you said, no flavorings.
Yeah, sure. I guess at the end of the spectrum of consistency, like is cheese. So you have, but even with cheese, you need to be careful because like some have 0 point something grams of carb, but it's always per 30 grams. So like a 30-gram piece of cheese, that's like a small like a inch cube, like in picture it in your head. So that's like 1 carb per tiny little cube of cheese, and so I would say if, for example, you have 150 grams of cheese like that you put in your salad or you eat like that, like we often do, this is your 5 grams of carb. But like there are some cheese out there that have 0 grams of carb.
Well, they don't have 0.
But
That's a
0
lie.
point
They have
something.
0 point something.
But at least not written 1 per 30 grams.
Yeah, but you still need to like double check when you put more than 1. I would at least, if I see 0 on a cheese, put it in as 0.5. Because that means you're just barely under 0.5, and they're able to say that. Actually, by the way, you can be under 0.6 and they're allowed to say 0.
Okay.
which is like the government again with their foolishness. Because 0.5, you're supposed to round up, but they can round down at 0.6.
Okay.
So this is part of the reason I don't believe that garbage,
Okay.
right? But for you guys, like thinking about cheese, and this is the other thing too, is like when you're making meals and you're putting cheese in things, it's like one of the things that I want everyone to think about is just weigh everything, measure everything. You know, like you were saying, one little cube is 1 gram sometimes of carb, that little teeny tiny cube. And if you don't actually weigh that and realize that, oh my God, that's 30 grams, you're going to think like, oh, that couldn't have been much.
Yeah.
And it was 30 grams, right? Now, I do eat cheese, so I don't eat yogurt, but I do eat cheese. And I eat cheese regularly. Sometimes when we're doing 1 meal a day, we think that we shouldn't be looking at those numbers, but I can guarantee you guys, even on 1 meal a day, I still check every one of those numbers because you never know that day that you're going to put cheese and for some reason you end up with, well, I often do this actually, cheese and olives on the plate. And then I need to make sure that that combination is okay for me.
Yeah. But like you say, you need to weigh often because like one day you're gonna put a little bit more, then like you're gonna get used to that size, and just like over time your servings gets higher and higher and higher, and like in the end you end up like that's not the 175 grams of yogurt I was putting, it's like 250 grams. So you need to, like, the scale needs to be become your best friend. Next one I want to tackle is like your favorite cheat days. Can I have cake? Can I have a cheat day?
Why do you want a cheat day?
Yeah.
And can I really cheat on me? Which is really that, right? That's the idea, like that I'm cheating on who? If I have a cheat day, am I cheating on my diet? But my diet is me, right? Like what I eat builds the quality violet that's going to be going forward. So am I actually saying that I'm cheating on myself? Okay, so the logic there, right? Like there's a bit of logic missing. And I want us all to think about that, because at the end of the day, if you're cheating on yourself, what are you trying to accomplish?
On top of that, like a cheat day, let's say for example you have it once a week, like what's gonna happen? You're gonna have like your 200-300 grams of carbs for that cheat day if you have, for example, a spaghetti and bread and a dessert, and like that's gonna kick you out of ketosis, and it's gonna take a good 3-4 days to get back into ketosis. For how many days? For 2-3 days. Then you're gonna have your cheat meal again. So your cheat meal again. So like, yeah.
Not to mention that, how are you gonna feel after you kick yourself out?
Yeah.
So like this varies, right? Because if you're a person who's been doing keto this way the entire time, you might not even notice what's happening. But for like you or me, if I were to actually let myself get kicked out of ketosis by eating something that I shouldn't, well, I mean, how do I know about the nuts? Oh, I didn't feel good. Oh, like the bathroom. Oh, like so many things were happening. How did I know about the nightshades? Oh, my joints were hurting. Oh, like, so the truth is, when you have been doing keto for a long period of time and then you have something off plan, you notice, and it doesn't feel great. So there's a lot of people that, because you're not truly committed and you occasionally do these things, again, you're asking me, Violet, can I have a cheat day? Why are you asking me that? So I can validate that it's okay for you to do it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to point my finger back at you and say, why are you asking me that? Who are you trying to cheat on? Why aren't you prioritizing your health over the taste of food? Why aren't you putting yourself first, your health first, that you can see those grandchildren, those great-grandchildren, those great-great-grandchildren? Wouldn't that be cool to see great-great-grandchildren? So, yeah, cheat days, cheat meals, you know, going over by 5 grams on it, all of that stuff. The reason I ask you, weigh your food before you eat it, is so you don't even go over by 5. So I'm not going to encourage you to cheat. Like, that's the one thing on the list that I'm actually going to say no. That's the one thing on the list I'm actually going to say no. Do not have a cheat day, a cheat meal. I ask you to weigh your food before you eat it so that you stay under 20.
I have something else that you're gonna say no to. Actually, that's not on the list, and I just like thought about it. What about, can I go back to eating standard American diet after my 3, 4, 5 years of doing keto and having lost the weight? Well, we see that in comments.
Can I go back to drinking
Okay.
after I got sober? Can I go back to doing drugs after I got
Not only
off
that,
drugs?
like, 'cause oftentimes like we see comments like, can I go back to eating normally after doing keto for a
Sure,
certain
you
period
can.
of
The
time.
same way that you can go
But
back to drinking and you can
but
go back to drugs.
but it's the normally that's kind of like sometimes makes me laugh because it's like the not normal way to eat that you were eating before. So like, but all that to say that like just keto is a lifestyle. It's not a diet. That was my
Honestly,
point.
that point too, it brings us to this other idea that
Mhm.
we have a hard time being the only people who are doing the right thing,
Mhm.
right? And but I would say that this is the same as if I know that my friend is cheating on her husband, I'm not gonna go start cheating because everybody around me is cheating and I should be cheating on you. Like no, like
Mhm.
you guys want to do the wrong thing. I plan to be here for a long time. Like do whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
right? I plan to be here for a long time, and it's the same idea, right? Like am I doing all of this work because I want to be healthy, or am I doing all this work because I want to be thin?
Mhm.
And if you're only focused on
Yeah.
being thin, you're going to entertain the idea of going back to normal eating. But what's going to happen when you go back to that normal eating? You're going to gain the weight back.
Mhm.
If that's okay with you,
Or you're gonna get the weight back, and if you had metabolic issues, like they're gonna be back, and like a bunch of negative stuff are gonna be back. So.
unfortunately, that's what will happen.
Mhm.
Like, I really, it's hard. And I truly get it because, like I said, I had nuts and it was like, but then I had to take a decision,
Mhm.
right? Like, I had to stop and look at myself for real and ask, what are you doing, Violet? What are you doing?
Mhm.
Is this 5 minutes that you're eating nuts really worth first of all, the
Yeah.
physical repercussions that I was living, but also knowing that I was ruining my health? And as
Mhm.
soon as you put that into perspective, it's not worth it at all. It's not worth it. So I'm asking you guys to do the same thing. Like, look at what's happening and take a decision. So I guess
Mhm.
there's two things on the list that I'm saying no
Yeah.
to. As going back to eating
Yeah.
normal standard diet means that you put in all that effort, energy, work for no reason.
Yeah.
Actually, this video was so amazing. I want you
Mhm.
guys to share it. I feel like we've gone through a lot of ideas here
Okay.
that other people need to know about. Not to mention, it does help us when you guys share the
Mhm.
videos.
Mhm.
The other way that you guys can help us is there are some links in the description below that will help us to stay independent, because that way we won't need sponsors and etc. on the videos.
Mhm.
I want to thank you guys for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet Pat Chat Edition.
Talk to you next week.